Good morning, welcome back to Unwind and Knit with me. My name is Lisa and I'm from Christchurch in New Zealand, and this is my little part of the world where I talk about knitting and yarn and patterns. I'm a very keen knitter, a little bit addicted to wool and yarn and knitting. Not an expert by any means, but yeah, I just like to share with you my projects that I'm working on, things that I've finished and things that I may start, or things that I will definitely start for sure. This is episode 5. If you have viewed before, welcome back, but if you're a new viewer, welcome, and please hit subscribe if you're a new viewer. You can also follow me on Instagram and my Ravelry as Lisa NZ Knitter. I will put all the links below. So yeah, anything that I talk about today, yarn and patterns, I'll always link below. So I don't have to keep saying that. I find that I repeat that a lot in some of my previous podcasts. I've had an amazing response to my first couple of episodes, and it's really quite overwhelming. I've had comments from viewers around America, Minnesota, Washington State, California. I've had a couple of viewers from England and Canada, and wow, just wow, that's all I can say about that. Thank you, and thank you for your support, and thank you for all your kind words. It does give me encouragement to want to keep going. Yeah. First of all, I'll tell you what I'm wearing. I knitted this about 4 years ago, and it's called the Timely Cardigan by Truly Myrtle, and I knitted it in Outlaw Bohemia Sport. Outlaw Yarn is local to me here in Christchurch, and they do a range called Bohemia, and that's what I did this little cardigan in. I haven't worn it for a little while, and when I put it on I thought, oh dear, I think it shrunk, and then I looked and I thought, no, it hasn't shrunk. I think I've gained weight. So it's a little bit snug in the arms, a bit more snug than what it used to be, but that's okay. We're coming into summer. We've just come out of our winter, so that does happen. Put on a bit of weight in winter and hopefully lose it through summer. Yeah, so I can't blame the garment. It's the person wearing the garment. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. And also I've got a finished object to show you. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already had a peek, a sneak preview of the finished garment, but it has been ongoing for quite some weeks now. And it's my Miss Arena tee by Caitlin Hunter. This is it here, and it's all finished. Yay! For you viewers that have seen my earlier podcast, I started this and I got about halfway and I wasn't happy with the fabric. I didn't swatch, so my mistake, and I pulled it all out and I started again. So this garment's kind of been hanging around for a while. I feel like I've knitted it twice. I will insert a photo of me wearing it so you can see how it looks finished. I'm really happy with it, and it's one of those patterns that yes, I would knit again. Definitely really happy with it. So I used a 4-ply Merino in colourway gold, and that's from KiwiYarna, and she's a local indie dyer here in Christchurch. I used a 3.75mm needle for the body. When I did my first one, I did a 3.5, and like I said, I wasn't happy with the fabric, so I went up a needle size. And the only modifications that I made, the pattern called for wrap and turns on the short rows, and I'm not a fan of wrap and turn, and I always swap them out for German short rows. Yeah, so you'll probably hear that a lot in a lot of my garments. It's one of my biggest modifications is German short rows over wrap and turn. So we all have our little preferences. And I did, the other small modification is I probably did maybe about 2 inches longer in the sleeve. The sleeve was quite short you know, if I'd stopped where the pattern said to stop. So I did add a little bit of length to the sleeve just to make that a wee bit longer. But it blocked out beautifully. I'm really happy with it. I have worn it already once, and like I said, I will insert a photograph so you can see what the finished garment looks like on. Yeah, really happy with that one. And I'll share with you what I'm knitting, what I've actually got on my needles at the moment. Another thing that you'll get used to with me is I always have lots of things on the needles. I never just have one thing at a time. I generally have 2 or 3 or 4, if you count socks. Yeah, generally a few things on the needles. The first one I'll share with you is, I have shown you this one before, but it's Stripes by Andrea Mowry. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry. And I started this, we went away for the weekend last week, and I started it while we were away. And I've made some pretty good progress, I think. So I have divided for the sleeves, and I'm a couple of inches down to the body. And I am, which I often do, is I'll stop and then I'll do my sleeves and then I'll try it on as I go. But I have just made a start on one of the sleeves. Super thrilled with the yarn and the colours. So this yarn actually came out of my stash. I purchased it a few years ago to do a big colourful shawl that I never did. So when I saw this pattern, yeah, the wool was perfect. It was just meant for it. I've used 9 colours. The yarn I've used, again, is Outlaw yarn, and there's a combination of their Little Bandit and Bohemia Light, and they both knit up to the same gauge. And the thing I found with these colours is I laid them out and I created 4 or 5 different combinations of how I wanted the colours, and every combination worked. So these colours, they just work together beautifully in any combination. And if you did want to do this jersey, I can pretty well guarantee that if you went on to their website and looked at Little Bandit or Bohemia Light and selected 9 colours just at random, they would work together. It's just an incredible range of colours. So that's it there. Outlaw yarn do have a knit along in October. So if you sort of want to be part of that and you're not sure what to do, it's a nice knit. I think Stripes are always a quick knit, because instead of saying just one more row, you sort of say, oh, just one more colour. I'll just finish this colour before I go to bed. And then, you know, so it knits up quite quickly. What else can I tell you about that? Oh, there was a couple of new techniques, new to me, but I did have to look at the tutorial, and one was a twisted German cast on, and I actually didn't find it easy. It took me quite a bit of perseverance to get that cast on, but I was determined to cast on. At one stage I was going to cheat and just do a long tail cast on, but I did persevere and I got it done. But it was a new technique to me. And in saying that, I got it done. I think if I ever had to do it again, I'd still have to go back to the tutorial. But it's always worth it when you do what the pattern actually says to do. There was a choice also with this pattern for a relaxed collar, a single collar, or a double collar where you knit your rib and then sew it back down on itself. I've chosen the relaxed collar. Yeah, and the other modification I've made, no surprise, I switched out German short rows for the wrap and turns again. The other, what you call it, a technique that you use on this, and I also used it on my Timely, but it's jogless stripes. And it's amazing. It's a really nice technique. Don't ever be put off by it if you haven't done it before. It's super easy, and it literally gives you no step up when you change colours in your stripes. So do just check out the tutorial, but it's really easy. Oh yeah, and I'm using 3.75 on the body for that one stripes, and making great progress. So with a bit of luck, that'll be a finished object for my next podcast. And the other project that I cast on, I think I might have shown the pattern to you in the last podcast, but it's called Jupiter Crop by Caitlin Hunter. No surprises there again. I'm such a fan of Caitlin Hunter. I love the crop. I'm not sure whether I will add a bit more length to the body. I will leave it as a short sleeve, I think. But I love the colour work in it. So if I didn't show you the pattern, I know that I definitely showed you the yarn. And it's a woolen spun yarn that I haven't done much knitting with woolen spun yarn, but I'm really enjoying it. So there, I'm only a couple of rows off getting ready to divide for the sleeves. But that's my colour choice there. I'm really enjoying it. The yarn, like I said, it's a bit different to what I'm used to knitting, but it's kind of rustic. And I know this is not the right word, but it kind of feels a bit sticky, but in a really nice way. And I think that's why they recommend it for Colorwork, is because the floats sit beautifully. Look at that. I just get such satisfaction out of seeing good floats. Yeah, really enjoying it. I've done that in an outlaw yarn called Rebel Destiny Light. And I'm not sure if that yarn is still available, or whether I think it's available, but I'm not sure if they're having problems with supply. But I'll show you the colours I used. And once again, it's that sort of range that I think all the colours just work nicely together. So there's those 4 colours there, and of course there's the light grey. But yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting it with it. I do want to do some more colour work in woolen spun yarn, and it's just kind of got this real neat rustic feel. I have used Southlander Sport, Southlander DK for some colour work, and that's a woolen spun yarn, which I enjoyed, but it actually had quite a sheepy smell to it, which doesn't bother me, but some people don't like it. And that's what I like about this. Actually, it doesn't have a sheep smell. It just smells really quite neutral, and it also feels quite soft to the skin. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on that one. I have posted some photos on my Instagram, but yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, pretty proud of that piece of work actually. And once again, the only modification I've made is I've switched out German short rows instead of wrap and turns. Yeah, and like I said, it's a toothy, rustic kind of yarn, but in a nice way. So I am enjoying that. Yeah, and who knows, that might be an FO by the time I get to my next podcast as well. I will just show you a quick photo of my Miss Arena tee. Okay. Okay, I'll share with you a couple of things that I've got in my, that are lined up for me ready to cast on, which I'm really excited about. I thought I'd just mention too, there's a lot of hype at the moment about the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, and I wonder if any of you guys are taking part in that. I love seeing the hype, and I love seeing how everyone's so involved, and I think every wool store or yarn store, every knitting community in the world has created something for this knit along. It's super exciting to sit back and watch. It'll be really exciting to watch it unfold. Personally, I've never taken part in a knit along, and I think that's because I always have my own queue of things that I want to get through, and I always seem to be way behind. When something new comes out or a new release, I'm the one that's knitting it a year or two after it's released. I never kind of jump on the bandwagon and do something straight off, but it's normally because I have so much going on with other projects, not for any other reason, but I am excited to see it all unfold. So yeah, good luck with that one if you're doing it. I think it will be super fun. So in my last podcast, I think I don't think I know, I showed you this yarn that I've bought. Now it's a Cascade Yarns alpaca lace. That's the bag, the ball band there. It's a super fine yarn, and I've double stranded it with some mohair. I got this yarn at the Skeins at their annual sale, and I love the colour. I was actually going to purchase a couple more skeins, but it's all sold out. I jumped online a day or two ago, but yeah, they didn't have any. So I did a swatch, and I had another pattern that I showed you. Can't remember what it was called, but I did have another pattern in mind for this swatch. There's my swatch there. Now, let me just check my notes. I think I've done that on a 4.5, a 4 or 4.5, I can't remember. But I'm really happy with the fabric that it's created. It's quite light and airy. It's got a lovely halo with the mohair in it. But I found this pattern, and when I say I found this pattern, I also found this designer. I haven't come across her before, so I thought I'd share it with you. You're probably sitting there thinking, Lisa, what rock have you been living under? But she's new to me, and her name's Kate Oates. But the pattern's called Sunday Crew by Kate Oates. That's it there. And it calls for a light, airy, lace weight yarn with a nice halo. So perfect. The match was just perfect. I got gauge. So that is something that I'm going to cast on. I may even cast it on today. So the other reason I'm really excited about casting that on is, so I'll talk about my needles. My choice of needles is chalgoo, and I have the interchangeable set of stainless steel chalgoo, and I use them for everything. Big fan, love them. But what I have found, when you're knitting such a lightweight yarn at such a loose gauge on chalgoo, it's really slippery, and I have to hold my needles quite tight to not drop stitches. So I thought it's time to do bamboo. This is where bamboo would be perfect because they're just a little bit grippier and not so slippery. So I was a wee bit naughty. I was going to just buy the fixed cable and the needle, but I ended up buying the kit. So it's the case it comes in, and I've bought the interchangeable kit of the bamboo. I spoke to a couple of friends who use these, and one of the ladies actually says that she actually doesn't use her stainless steel anymore. She's just completely converted to bamboo. I can't see me doing that. I think I'll still always love my stainless steel, but I do think there was a place in my knitting basket for a set of bamboo. Haven't told my husband that one yet, so I think I might just hide those. It's like, oh, that old thing, I've had that for years. When you buy something new. So that's why I'm keen to cast that on, because I've actually got new needles to cast it on with, and wow, that's super exciting, right? I think it is. And my other new cast on. So in the last episode, I showed you some hand-dyed and hand-spun yarn that I come across at the Weavers Guild, Spinners and Weavers Guild fibre shop here in Christchurch. And I actually compared it to Spin Cycle. And I do apologise if anyone, if I misled anybody by saying that Spin Cycle was commercial made, or if I indicated that I wasn't a fan. It's not what I meant. What I wanted to say is Spin Cycle's actually not available to me here in the South Island of New Zealand. Nobody stocks it. So for me to buy Spin Cycle, I have to buy it online. And trust me, if it was sold here, I'm sure I'd have some in my stash, because the colour range, what they do with that yarn is outstanding. It's really beautiful. And I was corrected by a viewer who said it's not commercially made. It was started by two women, and it was started as hand spun, but they've just grown now, and it's done on a lot bigger scale. But anyway, enough about that. I did find this yarn, and now I needed to decide what I was going to knit it into. And initially I thought, well, what I'll do is I'd use the two skeins that I have, and I would combine them with Spin Cycle, and I would knit this, the Shifty by Andrea Mowry. I'm sure that'll be familiar to a lot of you. And like I said, I can't buy it here. I have to actually buy it online. But I did the maths, and I was going to need 12 skeins. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of wool for a little crop jersey. And I actually got a friend of mine to redo my calculation, because at my calculation at 12 skeins, it was going to cost me over 400 New Zealand dollars. And in anyone's language, that's a lot of money to spend on a jersey. And I have been known to do that before, spend a lot of money on a jersey, but I just thought, oh, no, not this time. So I had to go back to the drawing board and try to work out what I was going to do with this yarn. And a friend suggested, and that's how I come across Kate Oakes, but a friend suggested Lovebird sweater. That's not showing up very well there, but jump on Ravelry and have a look. It's a lovely sweater, and the Colorwork's actually done in Spin Cycle. So I looked at that and thought, yeah, but I don't really want another short sleeve tee, and that is short sleeve. May have the option to do it as a long sleeve. So then I went back, and a couple of years ago I knitted, I'm going to have a mental blank here now, Gold Wing by Jennifer Steinglass. Jennifer Steinglass. Yeah, Gold Wing, and I loved it, and that was Colorwork yoke. So I thought, well, that's what I'll do, another one of those using this yarn. But then I delved a little bit deeper, and I come across New Leaf by Jen Steinglass. And sorry, it's only a black and white copy. But yeah, it's got the Colorwork yoke and the Colorwork around the sleeve. It's very similar to Gold Wing, but that's what I've decided I'm going to do with it. And that also calls for Spin Cycle for the Colorwork. So that is what I'm going to use this for, but I just have to find the base colour to knit with it. So I still have a wee bit of shopping to do before I can cast that one on. But yeah, so that was quite exciting. And the other thing, I showed you this pattern called Merely. That's it there. I will leave the links to these if you want to jump onto Rev and have a look at them. But this really appealed to me, and I think it was because of the colours. They're really soft, and I just think it looks really feminine. So while I was looking at this yarn store in Auckland to buy Spin Cycle, which I never bought, I did buy something else. I bought some Brooklyn Tweed Loft. Is it Loft? Yeah, Brooklyn Tweed Loft. And again, this is another yarn that's not available to us here in the South Island. So the main colour I chose was this, and it is actually really similar to the colour I'm doing my Jupiter crop in. You know, you just go through a phase and colours, you're just drawn in by certain colours. Well, this is the colour that's drawing me at the moment. It's also almost like a rust. But that's my main colour, and they're my three contrast colours to go with it. So there's a yellow, a pink, a beige against that rust. And if you have a look at on the colours here, they're quite close. It's not very good. But you've got the rust, the pink and the yellow, and then the beige. So yeah, I did do a wee bit of internet shopping. So I am keen to cast that on as well. So yeah, watch this space. And I had another one, the Sunday Crew. Oh, and yeah, no, so that's all three. But along the way, I found some new patterns, and I do like to share new patterns with you. So I showed you the lovebird. A friend of mine has just knitted up the lovebird for her daughter, so I saw the finished project. It's outstanding. And she did use the spin cycle for the Colorwork. So I probably will do that down the track in the future. It is a lovely top. But going back to summer tees, I've knitted 3 or 4 in the last couple of months, and I have shared them all with you. But I found, actually I didn't find this, a friend in my knit group found this, and so I had to buy it as well. It's called Summer Haze. I'm not sure who it's by. Simone Carrete. I'll show you the picture. What really appeals to me about this is the lace work in the front and the way that it sits. It's really feminine, and it's really pretty. Let me see if I can show you that. It's not coming up too well. But if you're wanting to do a summer tee, I'd really recommend you having a look at this one. It's done in a combination 75% cotton, 25% wool. A sock weight. It says a sock yarn. So any sort of sock yarn or sock sort of 4-ply fingering. So there's quite a bit of detail, lace work around the top, but all the rest is just stocking stitch. So it'll be a nice easy knit. Yeah, so I thought I'd share that with you. I haven't got any yarn put aside for it, and I may not even do this one till next year, to next summer. But I thought it was worth sharing with you. And the other one, I follow on YouTube Inga from Knitting Traditions, and I also follow The Gentle Knitter. And both those ladies have knitted this shawl, and it's been on my radar for a little while. I'm not a big shawl person. I don't wear a lot of shawls, and most shawls have a lot of lace work. For me, this one's more like a big woolly blanket. It could be worn as a over-the-shoulder shawl blanket. But it's called a half and half triangle wrap. It's a free pattern by Pearl Soho. It is available on Ravelry, and I'll show you this picture. So like you can see, it's almost just like, it's half and half, so it's just 2 colours, and it's just like a big snuggly cuddle, really. It's all done in garter stitch with a whole series of short rows. The pattern does call for wrap and turn, but I would exchange that for German short rows. And it would be super easy, relaxing knitting. It would be brainless, just knitting that you can do when you're not in the mood for concentrating. My husband and I are lucky enough to get away a bit. We travel a bit when we're not in the COVID world, and we're allowed to travel. And we have a motorhome, and that's what I want it for. It's almost like cabin knitting. And quite often we'll sit out at night time, watch the sunset, have a glass of wine, and you just want a blanket to wrap around you. And I thought that'd be perfect. It's not a shawl, like a lace shawl, and it's not a blanket. It's just a big cuddly snug, really. So I haven't got any yarn put aside for it. I haven't even really thought about what yarn I'd use. The pattern calls for a 4-ply, and you need about 2,000 metres to knit that one. And I think it would be just a good one to have. I may not start it coming into our summer, but I think it might be one that I'll start as we leave summer and come into winter next year. But yeah, worth having a look at. And if you follow those podcasts, you've probably seen it. And actually, Inga from Knitting Tradition refers to it as her cabin knitting. So I've pinched that term from her. But yeah, that's that one. And I think I just need a cup of coffee. One of the other podcasts that I watch on YouTube is the ladies at the Woolley Thistle, which is an online store. They sell a lot of Shetland wool, a lot of, I think, English and Scottish yarns, Jamieson and Co. And they're quite interesting. It's quite hard to sit there and watch sometimes because they have so much beautiful yarn and you just want to jump online and order it. It's really tempting. But they carry a lot of the Marie Wallen books, and they also sell kits for Marie Wallen jerseys. And I've said before, every year I set myself a challenge, and I think I'm pretty convinced, actually. I've got myself sold on the fact that next year I'm going to do a Marie Wallen jersey, and I will purchase the kit. I've already given my husband the heads up that that's what I want for Christmas, is a Marie Wallen jersey kit. And there's a new book coming out called Cherish, and from what I understand, there's some of her patterns that she's released before that have been knitted in the flat, and I think she has reworked some of them so they can be knitted in the round. So that really excites me because I wanted to do one in the rounds. And they go on pre-sale tomorrow. So I will be jumping onto the Woolley Thistle website tomorrow for that. So that's a book that I thought that I'll share with you when I get it. But if you like Marie Wallen, yeah, you might want to check that one out. I can't remember the name of the pattern that I wanted to do. I think the book was called Cherish, and that Primrose it might have been. But I'll share that with you. But I am going to put in a pre-order for that book. And the other one was on the same podcast, the Woolley Thistle. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Tomorrow, I think they're interviewing Marie Wallen. So, yeah, tune in. I think it will be a really interesting interview because I think she's amazing. But last week, they interviewed Gudrun Johnston, and she's bringing out, I'm not sure if it's a book or a magazine, called The Shetland Trader. So I watched the interview with her where she talked about the Shetland Trader, and what she's done is she's actually reworked some of her mother's patterns, and she's released them in this book. And I think pre-orders for that are going out shortly as well. So they're two books books or magazines to look out for, is the Marie Wallen Cherish and Gudrun Johnston, the Shetland Trader. But both of those interviews are probably worth watching. Yeah, so they interviewed some really interesting people on that podcast. So yeah, I'd recommend that you jump over there and have a look at that. And I think I'm pretty well, I think that's me done. I think I've pretty well, oh no, there was one other thing. I haven't been doing much sock knitting, and I think it's because we haven't been travelling much or getting away much, but I thought I'll just give you a quick update. I knit a very basic sock pattern for myself and my family, and it's called Toe Up Socks with a Difference. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I like the idea of doing toe up, but I also like a really plain sock pattern when you're using amazing sock yarn. So self-striping yarn, the yarn speaks for itself. I don't think it needs all the fancy lace work. So I have made a bit of progress with these ones. So this is just an opal self-striping sock yarn. But this little tool that I use, I wanted to share with you. So it's called a sock ruler. You can buy these at a lot of online stores, like knitting stores, but I have also got a couple of friends that have just made one, cut out the cardboard put the markings on there, and it's really handy. I have this in my my sock knit bag all the time, and I've even gone as far as etching in the names of like my socks and my husband's and my daughter's, so when I'm out and about and I'm knitting, I know exactly where to stop. So I paid $10 New Zealand dollars for this one, so they're not expensive, but if you like sock knitting and yeah, especially if you're knitting toe up, I think they're a really good investment. So that's where they are. So in a couple of weeks here in New Zealand we have Labour Day, which is a long weekend, and my husband and I have already decided that as long as our lockdown doesn't change, as long as our levels don't change here in the South Island, we're going to head away for a few days. So number one, I may get some sock knitting done, because that's what I tend to do when we go away. But I think we might go into Central Otago, and if you're not from New Zealand, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. There's beautiful lakes with snow-capped mountains. It's just stunning. So if we do get away, I'm really keen to take a couple of little videos and photos, and I'll share them with you on my next podcast. And who knows, I may even visit one or two yarn stores while I'm down there through Central Otago. There's one that I visit a lot called Touch Yarn, and they have their own brand of yarn, and it's all merino, and the merino sheep all come from that region. So it's a pretty special little yarn shop. So if I'm down there, I might take a few videos and photos, and I'll share them with you on my next podcast. And I think that's about me done. Once again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your support and for your kind words. Share the podcast with your friends, and please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And you can follow me on Instagram and Ravelry as Lisa NZ Knitter, and I will leave all the links below. Feel free to ask me any questions or leave comments. I do read them all, and I do reply to all of them. And yeah, just once again, thank you. This is really special. It's just nice feeling like I'm part of a knit group that I can share with all of you guys around the rest of the world. It still blows my mind, actually, that I've got viewers from around the States, Canada and England. So yeah, who knows where this might go, but thank you very much for your support, and I will podcast again in a couple of weeks. Till then, stay safe, stay happy, and happy knitting. Thank you. Bye.